So with Neil Marshall's new film, The Reckoning, coming out tomorrow, I guess I should probably talk about his earlier work, which was, one of the best horror films of the mid-2000s. And before we get started, I do just want to start doing this thing on this channel where I'm filling you guys in on what I've been watching, in case there's anything that I want to recommend but maybe don't want to review on here. Currently, I've been on a bit of a Godzilla binge. I mean, I'm a diehard Godzilla fan since I've been, about 3 years old. And what with Godzilla vs. Kong coming out in a month, I figured now might be a good time to just jump back to the very beginning of the franchise and watch all the way through, because there are some movies in there that I have not seen since I was a kid. So I decided to break out my Criterion collection of the Showa-era films, and let me tell y'all, 1954 Gojira, awesome. Harrowing, horrifying, bleak. The 1956 American recut Godzilla King of the Monsters, embarrassing. If you ever want a peak experience in surreality, watch these two back to back, because it is truly heinous. Yeah, let's take this harrowing film about a country's collective rage and sadness about nuclear war, but let's recut it and throw an American correspondent into the middle of every scene so that he can narrate everything you're seeing happen on screen in front of you. I digress. Let's talk about The Descent.
There's only one way out of this chamber, and that's down the pipe.
Directed by Neil Marshall, The Descent stars Shauna McDonald as Sarah, a young woman who goes cave diving with 5 of her friends, only for them to end up in a bloody fight for their lives against cave-dwelling mutants. The Descent is one of those horror movies that came out before I was a horror fan, so I had seen trailers for it, but I was terrified to watch it, and it's something that I did eventually watch much later in my life when I grew a much higher tolerance to horror and was able to watch everything under the sun. And let me tell you, having watched The Descent at that point, when nothing scared me anymore, this movie still scared the hell out of me. I would argue that it's the best and possibly the scariest horror film to come out of the mid-2000s. It's a testament to great directing, great acting, great storytelling, and it showcases how a little realism goes a long way in creating a terrifying horror experience. This movie sets up its entire story perfectly in its opening scene, showcasing the dynamic between Sarah and her friends, which feels like a real friendship dynamic that all of these actors have together, before ultimately culminating in a horrifying tragedy in which a car accident kills Sarah's husband and her daughter at the same time. And let me tell you, it's one of the most harrowing cold opens ever. And it only gets scarier from there, and ironically, that's nothing to do with the crawlers. See, the part of The Descent that is arguably most rooted in creature feature horror, the crawlers, the blind, cave-dwelling humanoid creatures that eat people, are arguably the least scary part of the film, because the much more terrifying aspect of this movie is the spelunking aspect of it. I would never in a million years go cave diving, and this movie is a perfect demonstration as of why. You could get lost, you could get stuck, a tunnel could collapse on you, and on top of all of that, you're down inside the earth, so no one's gonna be able to come get you if something happens. Now add to that the fact they were told they were going to a different cave, and that Sarah is rightfully traumatized from her loss, and all of these factors come together to create a situation that is equally horrifying and tragic all at once. And tragedy and trauma is really the core of the story here. There's a line early on in the film when Sarah is stuck in what I would arguably consider the most frightening scene in the movie, and the line is, "The worst thing that could have happened to you has already happened, and you're still here." And that line could honestly be the through line of the whole film. It's a story about survival, and for Sarah that means turning her trauma and her loss into a strength, into a means of helping her get out of this cave whatever it takes. And that loss echoes throughout the film, right up until the ending, which, make sure you're watching the unrated cut, because that is the real ending of the film. The theatrical cut ends on a stupid jump scare. That is the version you'll find on Amazon Prime. Don't watch that version. They cut the entire ending of the film because Hollywood deemed it too sad. Anyway, I want to give really special credit to Neil Marshall for his directing here. The choice to keep lighting in this film absolutely minimal in order to immerse the audience is a brilliant choice, and as a result, any light source that you see in the movie is not studio lighting, it's actually being generated by the sources that they're using in the film. The rule was, if you can't bring it to make light in a cave, we're not using it. So there's no big studio lights here, just a few flares, some glow sticks and flashlights, and a whole lot of impermeable darkness. And that type of immersion is great for a film like this because it has you apprehensive of every sound, every cave shadow. The characters are exceptionally well developed even before they go on this expedition, and our attachment to them makes for an incredibly effective, heart-pounding experience, and there are scenes in this movie that I still have trouble watching because of claustrophobia. And I'm gonna say that The Descent is a must-see. If you haven't seen it at this point, definitely check it out. It's totally worth your time. It's seriously one of the best horror films of the mid-2000s, which really isn't saying much because that was a pretty poor era for the genre, but this is one that I would highly recommend. Just make sure that you watch the unrated cut and never ever go near the sequel. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you like this channel and you want to see more, click down there, like, comment, subscribe. There's a Patreon link down in the description if you want to be like any of these cool people right here and donate. I would really appreciate it. Even $1 would help. You can join any of our cool new reward tiers, anything from access to my private Discord server where we have monthly movie watches to gifts sent right to your door. If any of that interests you, please consider donating. I would really appreciate it, but even if you don't, thank you so much for watching anyway, and I will see you all very soon.